Good morning. Welcome to the Personal and Family Security Program of the African Town Hall Online Television. We are pleased to be with you today on this special program. My name is Francis Meribe, your anchorman. We are in the period described in the scriptures as perilous times. Security problems worldwide have become very challenging. The security problem in Nigeria has deteriorated completely, and we can no longer guarantee our safety and security and the safety and security of our loved ones and our assets with the daily reports of multiple kidnapping, highway robbery, and invasion of villages by Fulani herdsmen, terror groups, and other sundry criminals. How can a man or a woman stay safe and help his or her loved ones and assets to stay safe and secure? The security of the world or even Nigeria is not likely to get better. What then can we do? We at the African Town Hall Online Television, in conjunction with Secure Travel and Residence Services Limited, feel that the only way is to get smarter through constant security awareness education for individuals and training for security professionals. This is why we have invited a renowned security expert professional, Mr. Reuben Odum, to come and share his wealth of training and experience, ideas and strategies to help people stay safe and keep their assets and loved ones safe in these times. Mr. Reuben Odum is a security professional with 25 years of experience working in public, private, and humanitarian sectors in the Nigerian space. And he is the chairman of the Abuja Chapter 273 of the American Society for Industrial Security, ASIS. Join us to learn one or two things you can do to keep yourself, family, and assets secure and safe in these challenging times. The African Town Hall Online Television will strive to host regularly security experts every Saturday at this time to keep discussing this matter with a view to helping all of us gain the expertise, the awareness that we need to stay safe in these times. It is now my pleasure to welcome Mr. Reuben Odum to our online studios. Mr. Reuben Odum, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meribe. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
It is the same with me. Thank you. Mr. Odum, please take a moment to share with our worldwide audience a little about yourself, your training, and experience in the security space.
Thank you again, Mr. Meribe, for the opportunity. So I've been doing security for about 25 years right now. Started to work with the Nigerian security sector. Did work with the Department of State Services here in Nigeria for a while. And then I moved on from working for the Nigerian government, retired, and started to work for the U.S. government, and did work for the U.S. government for a while. Today, like you noted, I am the chapter chairman for ASIS International, which is a renowned security association known worldwide. I'm the chapter chairman for the Abuja Chapter 273. And in the course of my work, I have also had the opportunity to work in the humanitarian stroke development sector. So been doing a bit of security here and there, and I hope that some of the trainings that I've received within the country and outside of the country will come in handy today in sharing information with our audience.
Oh, thank you very much, Ruben. I appreciate the opportunity to host you in this event because I know who you are. I know you are expertise. I know all the great achievements you've gotten in the security sector, and the fact that you are a very wise and smart person who knows how to do this work. Okay, if you are joining us, we invite you to participate in this discussion by leaving comments and asking questions on the chat bar, which Mr. Reuben Odum would help us answer today. We value your comments and questions. Thank you. Now, going forward, Mr. Odum, we are considering the perilous times we are in today, security wise. Just yesterday, the governor of Borno State, Professor Zulum, was attacked for a second time in 30 days by terrorists said to be of the Islamic State of West Africa, which is a splinter group of the dreaded Boko Haram Islamic terrorist organization. Kidnapping both at home, offices, highways, farmlands, carried out by terrorists suspected to be connected to the Fulani herdsmen terror group is now happening at every spot in Nigeria, with huge ransoms being paid out and many victims being killed even after ransom has been paid. Southern Kaduna has continued to be an epicenter for terror attacks where villages are burned down and several people killed. No part of this country is spared. Mr. Reuben Odum, in the light of the current security situation in Nigeria, what counsel, guidelines, tips, and strategies can you give to individuals, to families, and corporate organizations on how to stay safe and secure in these times?
Thank you again, Mr. Meribe. If one is to follow the introduction you've given and the picture you've painted, you would think that all of us should leave Nigeria so that they will fumigate the place and then we'll come back again. um, but seriously speaking, we do have issues here in Nigeria, but let me say quickly that those issues are not peculiar to Nigeria. Other countries too have their own issues. We just have um, different pocket of issues that we are dealing with here directly. But let me say upfront that what we're trying to do here today is to engage in a conversation. I don't have a silver bullet. There's no silver bullet anywhere for the purpose of solving security problem. There's just opportunities that all of us together as a people can explore to keep ourselves safer. So upfront, nothing that I'm going to say here in the next couple of minutes is sacrosanct, meaning that it's not like the gospel that cannot change, or it's not like our constitution that requires two-third majority of both the state house of assembly and the national assembly to change. What I'm saying is that some of the things that we're going to be talking about today reflects generally the information that we have, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to take hold of this information and use them the way that it suits you. We're talking about personal and family security. So what that means is that everybody who is listening to me need to be involved personally. So I don't know every one of you. Some of you who are online here, I know. But then, even to the extent that I know you, I can't protect you as much as you can protect yourself. We're also talking about family security here. There's nobody else to protect your family than yourself. So I'm also asking you, as we have this conversation, to reflect on what you can do to protect your family. But to recap what Dr. Meribe said, we have security issues, and he did start the introduction by saying we live in perilous times. And those of us who are people of faith understand what that means, that we are in the last days, and he did mention of something that is not going to get any better. And that is only because of the development that we've seen. Criminals are getting smarter, normal people are getting, if you will excuse me to use that word, are getting dumber. They're getting not so smart. So criminals are getting smarter. Technology is also enabling some of the crimes that we have. So just to put things in perspective. But then for those of us who are people of faith, somewhere in the good book it says something about the sons of Issachar who were men who had understanding of the times and knew what Israel ought to do. I'm hoping that this discussion today will give us some understanding of the times and enable us to know what we need to do and really do that. Another scriptures that I always like and I talk to people about when I talk about security is the one in the epistles that says something about being sober and vigilant because the devil, like a roaring lion, goeth about seeking whom he may devour. So the thing that I tell people is that that has not changed. It is still the situation today. And then for those of us who are people of faith, we tend to have some kind of confusion about discussing even security at all. Because God is there, why do we have to discuss security? The angels are on guard and all that. But here's something that I need to tell you. You need to read your Bible again very well, because even in the history of security, for those of us who do it, the first person ever to put a security guard anywhere was Jesus, was God the Father himself, who put the angel in the Garden of Eden to protect the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So we can't be more righteous than God, right? And then to think that if you look at the locks that we have today, whether it's for doors, for cars, for shop, for house, anywhere, the first person in history that we know that came up with the concept of putting a door and locking it was God when he locked Noah's Ark and took the key away so that they can be safe inside there for 40 days. So for those of you who have any kind of doubts about whether there's a conflict between faith and security, here's what I would tell you before we move forward. Do what is right, and God will do what is left. God does not expect us to do the things that is his responsibility to do. Is the same way we don't expect him to do what is our responsibility to do. Essentially, all of us have responsibilities to do anything. But let's come back to what we're talking about, the security question in Nigeria and all of that. I like to look at it from a perspective. There's something we call crime triangle, which relates to the elements that will be available anytime a crime will have to be committed. So it doesn't matter whether it's theft, it's kidnapping, it's burglary, it's any kind of crime at all. Certain elements have to be present. One of those key elements is the fact that there's always a bad guy that is present, always anywhere. Even if you read the story of Job, the conversation was, Satan, where are you? And he says he's going about roaming around the world. So what we find is that anywhere you go today, literally from your house to the church to the mosque to the office, everywhere bad guys exist. So upfront, let me say that there's no shortage of bad guys, just literally no shortage of them. In fact, they are getting more sophisticated and increasing every day. So at some point, you find yourself in a situation where something get missing, and the only person who is not guilty is yourself because you know that you didn't carry it. But in the meantime, until that is resolved, all of us look like thieves temporarily. So number one, bad guys always exist and they have their different motivations for doing what they do. Some of them will tell you they are hungry. Some of them will tell you they want to get married, they want to take care of family. That's why they stole. They have different lousy motivation. Some of them will blame it on the devil. Some of them say it's in their gene. Their father before their father was a thief. Their grandfather before their father was a thief. All of those are some of the motivations they have. And some of them are people who are high on drugs and are motivated by other things. But I'm not here to talk about the bad guy, but suffice it to say that the bad guy always exists all the time, anywhere that you find yourself. So keep that at the back of your mind. But that's not the real story. The real story is that there's always a vulnerable target that is always available. So where the bad guy exists, there's also a good guy who is doing things that are not smart, who is doing dumb things, who are not watching and protecting themselves, or who make some mistake that the bad guy capitalizes on. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit. And then the third factor is usually the opportunity that brings both the bad guy and the good guy together in one place. That is why you see that there are certain locations that favor crimes. So you look at the high level of crimes in bus stop, in the villages, in the suburbs, in the slums, or in communities where you have a huge concentration of people, um, places where you do not have a lot of good roads to be able to navigate, or where they have absence of law enforcement and all of that, or even times of the day, heavy traffic in the morning, heavy traffic in the evening on your way back from work, or even at night when you are tired or asleep. So there are certain times and opportunity that favors the criminal, that makes it easy for him. But let me come back to the second factor, which is the real issue that is important, is that good people sometimes are not vigilant, sometimes are not sober, and that becomes a problem. Let me give you some very quick excuse. So all of us know there's a challenge of electricity in the country today. And then as soon as the electricity goes off, one of the things we are always doing is that we are running directly outside of the house to go and on your generator. What you are doing is that you're getting outside of your comfort zone and getting outside in the middle of the night in the darkness without knowledge of what elements are available there to go and turn on the lights. And there be stories about people who have gone out to on their generators like that and have been stabbed and died, because sometimes it's not NEPA that takes PHCN that takes the light, is that certain bad guys switch off the gen so that they can attract you outside. In some cities around the country, it is somebody in the middle of the night turning the tap in the yard, in the compound on, and you wake up and you hear the tap running. And I tell people, if you're not the one who turned it on, please don't bother about it in the middle of the night. The person who turned it on will turn it off when they are tired. But what they are doing is that they are trying to attract you to get outside here. So those are some of the exposures, how we make ourselves vulnerable. You're driving a car, for instance, and you leave your laptop or your bag or things visible on your seat in heavy traffic. And then once you stop in the middle of that thick traffic, somebody is able to, whether they break the glass or not, are able to snatch that bag off from your seat. So those tiny, tiny things that we do, for me, are the real exposures, are the real problems. I can go on and on, especially in today's age and with technology advancement today. If we will spend the whole day talking about the exposure that we find ourselves in with the phones, from whether it's Facebook status, WhatsApp status that give too much information about us to people who frankly do not know us, or to people who are looking to cause us harm. All the selfies that we take that displays all our electronic gadgets at home and all of that, give opportunity for asset declaration to the bad guy who is watching. So you are spending time to take a good moment to take a picture. He's not interested in the picture. He's interested in the assets that you are declaring behind you. How about the kind of information we give in public conversation and in discussion? Too much information. So somebody asks you a question, where are you? And you give them all the answers without even thinking twice about what is the motive behind why they are asking the question. So sometimes the amount of information that we give is way too much, and we're not the first people to start that. So there was a conversation in the Holy Book where God asked Adam, Adam, where are you? Adam would have said simply where he was, but he gave additional information to say he was naked and he was hiding. So some of us are still following that thing today and giving way too much information, and people are using that against us. So think about excess information that you are giving. Think about routines that you are keeping that makes you vulnerable. So the criminal is either targeting you specifically, where they put you under surveillance and they are able to know the right place to get to you, or you find yourself in a situation where you are in the wrong place at the wrong time. But all of that reflects that anywhere the bad guy is, there's something that you are able to do that enables him, that makes it easy for him to get at you. So I just say that to lay the foundation that number one, bad guys always exist. We can't do so much about that. Sometimes the opportunity presents and the timing is ripe that brings both us and the bad guys in one place. But the real challenge for me is what you do that makes life easier for the bad guy, how you enable him, make his life very easy. Because the bad guy, the criminal does cost benefit analysis. He's interested in taking something of value away from you, but more importantly, he's interested in getting a way to survive. So escape is part of his plan. So there are things that we do that enable them to get those things easily and be able to escape. He weighs all that risk before he hits at you. He doesn't hit just at anybody. He normally looks for the easiest target to hit at them. The thing that I ask you to reflect on today is, how are you making yourself an easy target?
Oh, that is profound, Ruben. Very profound. Thank you. And viewers, how are you making yourself more vulnerable than you should? Because it is that vulnerability that the criminals exploit. They see every space we leave as an opportunity to space in and step in and feel it. And part of our responsibility, as Mr. Odum had taught us now, is to find ways, consider ourselves. I think it is the philosophers that say that an unexamined life is not worth living. So what that means is that we need to consider our ways, as it's even put out in the scriptures. Okay, thank you. Is there? Let me, before we go on, if you are viewing, because we have a lot of people who are on the counter showing that they are viewing this broadcast, we invite you to leave a comment and a question for Mr. Odum. One of the things that makes conversations to work very well is questions. So we need your questions. We value your questions. We'll be glad if you can put them on the chat bar so that it can help us to improve this conversation. Okay, Mr. Odum, let's take our minds to the other issues that uh, are happening right now in Nigeria, and maybe take a specific case and consider the particular steps that individuals or families or corporate organizations can take to be safe. Um, let's take the case of kidnapping. Can you narrow down the this clearly well thought out situation of our security problems to kidnapping, so that people can become a little bit wiser in that area?
Kidnapping is a recurring phenomena in Nigeria right now, where in communities around the country, um, they're moving away from kidnapping individuals now to kidnapping literally a whole group of people, the whole family or community of people. The idea is to be able to raise additional money from the number of people that are there. So the real elements in kidnapping is one, the denial of freedom, the abduction, and then two, some demand of concession, whether it's money or whatever they are looking for in exchange for your freedom. And the kind of kidnappings that we are finding today, there's one where people are being specifically targeted, where they are trailing you over time, understanding your movement and looking for your weakest moment to get at you. And then there's also the one where is express kidnapping, where you find yourself in the wrong place, wrong time, like you're traveling on any of our express road right now, and they grab you in an armed robbery that goes beyond armed robbery, and they take you away in exchange for some freedom. So those are the things that we find ourselves today. But the big deal with all of that is, first of all, the awareness that that threat exists.
Okay.
Accept the fact that that threat exists. And the challenge that people have is that until it happens close to them directly or to somebody that is close to them, they think that it's far fetched. It's not that far fetched today. You don't want to wait until you are in the X, until you are a victim before you believe it. What you find on social media and in the news alone is enough for you to get at it. So, understanding the nature of these crimes is important. So, what you find is they are looking for you when you are vulnerable. So, for instance, when you're on the road traveling, you are not in the comfort of your home or office, you are more vulnerable to the elements. You don't know the destination, you are in the middle of nowhere in your vehicle or in a commercial vehicle, you are vulnerable. The thing to think about is with our journey management and our preparedness before we do those kind of travel. One of the things I tell people today is technology has made it very easy for us um, to travel online. Because of technology, people from all over the world literally are watching us right now. So let's also be smart. Unless you need to do a critical travel, suspend the travel. You can make phone calls today. You can reach out to anybody via video chat and all of that, and do so today. You can send any resources that they need, um, either through bank transfer or even courier to people today. So think smart about those things and the level of exposures that you will have. Because if you consider the introduction that Mr. Meribe talked about, and if you are following the news, about the attack on a sitting governor, even though he's in a crisis prone area of the country, and the fact that up to 15 security persons who are armed died in that incident, then you want to consider your situation without a weapon, without any kind of security training, and see how vulnerable that you become. So for me, it is being smart about narrowing down the trips that you need to go, because the smart thing is being sober and vigilant, understanding that there are limitations that you can have. It's good to pray, and it's good to pray, it's good to have faith, but guess what? Safety, why safety is of the Lord. The horse necessarily has been prepared for the day of battle, because guess what? Some days you get up and it's a battle day for you. So you need to think about it. Again, like I said, we're talking about personal security, so I don't have a silver bullet for you. If I have specific information about your situation, then we can measure exactly your security situation or measure the risks you are exposed to, and then we can mitigate it. Essentially, what we can measure, we can mitigate. So I'm asking you to take some personal responsibility and start to do a personal security plan around the things you do, the travels you need to do, and start to figure out what you will do if something go wrong. So essentially think, what if? What if that was my family that was kidnapped? What if that was my relative that was kidnapped? What will I do? So that as you think about what you are going to be doing today, if somebody else is kidnapped, you might be well prepared to be able to take care of yourself. But in terms of preparation, some of the things to think about will be things like even stuff like preparing your family to say, okay, if something goes wrong as part of your security plan, this is what we should happen, this is who you should ask for. Make sure that you ask for proof of life and all that. There's a lot of stuff that we can talk about, but in terms generally of resolving security issues, let me narrow it down to a few things. A, avoid routine. Part of the problem is the routine that we keep, because this routine makes us vulnerable. Because if somebody is watching, if somebody has us under surveillance and looking for an opportunity to attack us, then we make it easy for them when we fit into a routine that allows them to understand us. So avoid routine. Be very unpredictable as much as you can. Whether it's the road you use, don't use the same road all the time. If you can help it, don't go out at the same time if you can help it. For instance, as far as timing is concerned, some of our roads in Nigeria today, you don't travel too early in the morning so that you can know of activities that has happened on the road before you head out. You don't also travel too late at night so that if there's some problem, you're able to resolve it before dark hours and all of that. So avoid routine in the things you do, in how you conduct yourself. Another thing is be very conscious and suspicious of your environment. Security consciousness is everybody's responsibility today. Situational awareness is important. Everywhere that you find yourself, you must be aware of what is going on. The challenge is that In this day and age, everybody is engrossed with their devices, whether it's in the house or on the road. Everybody is engrossed with their phones. And somebody said that life was better when Apple and BlackBerry were only fruits. But now that Apple and BlackBerries are now um, gadgets, everybody is on the phone, and you're talking about multiple devices and all that. So you're not even looking around your environment to see what is happening. So as far as being conscious of your environment is concerned, this is what I ask you to do. Set a baseline for what is normal in the environment that you find yourself. So if you find yourself in a shopping mall, for instance, everybody who is in a shopping mall should be shopping, right? What if there is somebody who is not shopping, who is fixated and looking at you? If you don't have an agreement with that person for the person to be looking at you, and you have seen that the person is looking at you once, twice, or thrice is more than a coincidence, you may want to check up with the guy to say, is there a problem? Otherwise, that is something that is outside of the normal. So what you find is once you set a baseline for what is normal, like in a shopping mall that I said everybody is here to shop, you now start to look out for two things: the absence of the normal, i.e., that is to say, what is going on here that is not normal, like somebody who is not shopping and is looking at you. The absence of the normal or the presence of the abnormal. So something is abnormal is going on. You need to watch out for that, or you need to watch out for what normally happens that is not happening. Either way, what you need to do is if you see any of those two happening, don't sit down and ignore it. Respond to it. Start to take some corrective measure because it falls outside of the baseline that you have set for what is normal in every environment. So, for instance, you are traveling on a road and vehicles are coming either way. Vehicles are overtaking you and going in front of you. You are overtaking other vehicles. Vehicles are coming from the opposite lane. And all of a sudden, you see that there are no vehicles coming from the opposite lane. Is that normal? Not exactly. That is the absence of the normal. And then as you are driving across, you see vehicles parked by the roadside, and it doesn't look like they have a flat tire or they are repairing the vehicles, and you think, okay, you are going to speed and pass in front of them. That is the presence of the abnormal. You may want to stop and find out what is going on before you start hitting the road. It might be that the owners of the road, so to speak, are somewhere in the front. So again, what is the baseline of what is normal, and then look out for the absence of the normal or for the presence of the abnormal. So I say A, avoid routine. B, be conscious and suspicious of your environment. As far as suspicion is concerned, God in his infinite mercy has created us with instinct. If something were to go wrong, it flashes you or send you a text message. But because we are very busy browsing and looking at other things, we are not conscious of that. But that is what God has given to us. Even animals have that instinct. But human beings have something that is better than instinct, that tells you, that gives you a premonition that something is going to go wrong. So call it word of knowledge, call it Holy Ghost, call it revelation, but God puts it into everybody at any time. The challenge we have is ignoring that instinct, because once you get the instinct and you accept it, your natural response is to do something about it, and usually we don't want to do something about it. So the next thing is contingency planning. C, contingency planning. Every once in a while, every plan that you have will fall apart. So there's nothing like 100% security. Once human beings are involved, there will be some vulnerabilities. There'll be somewhere where somebody dropped the ball or you drop the ball. So prepare to respond if something goes wrong. The kind of response you will have will depend on the environment, depend on the situation, depend on your knowledge, depend on your training, depend on your preparedness to respond to the situation. But by all means, be prepared to respond. So when something happens, you're either going to be frozen in one place, or you are going to be taking off and flying away, or um, so it's going to be one of those things: is that you will freeze in shock and do nothing, or you will take off. But whatever you do, Um, Take time to think about it before you act. But the longest thing to do is to froze in one position without doing anything. So I come from a service where, retired from a service where our abbreviation is DSS. And I worked in two different places, both in Nigeria and with the US, where our acronym is DSS. And we have changed that to mean do something. And even if it is stupid, it is better for you to do something stupid than to sit down there like a lame dog and not do anything, and they will come and catch you like that. So sometimes your adrenaline kicks in and you're able to make those decisions on autopilot, muscle memory kicks in, and you may do the right thing. So, in terms of solving problems, on a general note, let me say one, avoid routine that makes us vulnerable. B, be conscious of your environment and note for things that are changing. And C, be prepared to respond to the changes that you find in those environments.
Awesome, awesome. I'm getting a lot of education here today, even myself, in spite of my own preparation for this kind of business. I appreciate this every bit. Now, when you were responding to the last question, you said something about challenges with travel. I have a question here from Alex Jr. who said, "Hi, Ruben. I appreciate the caution. What's your advice for a man traveling a long distance in a public transportation and he receives a business call?" So I'm bringing this back because of the business call. I know you have talked about caution while traveling, but then you receive a business call. Can you share some thoughts on
Yes,
that?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it falls back to what I talked about sharing too much information.
Info.
And human instinct is usually, for us, when you take that phone call in the public transport, is to want to reintroduce yourself to the audience so that they will know that you are a very big man. Don't take it for granted that I'm
That
driving
I'm.
in a public transport with you. I'm a very big man. I just decided to follow you people in the public transport, and then you're talking
Mm,
about millions of naira, or
uh-huh.
you're talking and bragging. So naturally, our ego kicks in. We want to show that we are very important people. But here's the challenge: you do not know the other people in that vehicle. So if it is a business call, you may want to ask the person to call you or to revert back to chat, or to say or to reschedule that phone call at another time, because the people who are in that public transport have no business having that conversation. And I'll give you an example. I entered the flight not too long ago, and this person who sat down beside me was having a conversation with somebody about buying gold, you know.
Mm,
And then
mm.
the challenge is that as soon as you start to talk about things like that, people's antennas start to go up. So as he talks about buying gold, I got interested in the conversation about buying gold, just so I can talk about it in an event like this. But here is the issue: she finished that whole business transaction, business call on the flight, sitting next to me. And the interesting thing is that she had a book which was in her hand. And guess what? Like we used to do in secondary school those days, where you write your name at the edge of the book, right? Her name
Mm-hmm.
was written at the edge of that book. So here's a total stranger sitting down beside me in a flight who just finished having a conversation about gold.
Gold.
So don't forget, I say bad guys exist everywhere. There are people who enter even business class of airlines just to be able to rob in the airline.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting down in that plane right now. I already know her name. I already know she's into the business of gold. If I'm a criminal, all that I need to do is to put that name on Facebook or Google. Chances are that it'll be the same person that is sitting down beside me. Chances are, if she's making that business call on a flight, that she will have additional information on her Facebook page, on her Twitter or LinkedIn page, and I can get additional information about them. So that's the thing that I talked about smart people doing stupid things or good people doing stupid things that enables the bad guy. Don't take a business call in the public. Not only the walls have ears, but the criminals, like I said earlier, are everywhere around you. There is no shortage of bad guy. And here's the thing about the bad guys that we have today: they are very sophisticated, they are educated, they know process, and they know what to do to almost succeed by 100%.
Awesome, awesome. I hope our people are picking as much information. My notebook is getting filled up with notes that I'm taking on this matter, and this is very interesting. I appreciate every bit of it. Now, when you were speaking earlier today, you mentioned that you will give a general information here because you do not know the people specifically, which will now help a detailed study of the environment and the provision of the kind of security council or advice that can help them. Now, are you by any means recommending that even individuals and families, corporate organizations should keep security consultants and personnel close to them at all times and to bring up their issues?
Well, the reality is that if you do not have that already, you are too late in the day. You do
Okay.
have you do have a doctor that you can call if you have a health problem.
Yes.
You do have people have people that can cure when they have manicure problems, when they
Mm.
want to do their nails, when they want to do their hair, barb their hair, and all of that. With the security situation that we have in the country today, if you do not have a friend who is a security person or who have knowledge of security, you are not being smart enough. You need to increase your network to that level. And on that note, here's something that I need to say:
Yep.
who is a DPO in the environment around you? You're going to tell me, oh, the police is not my friend, they will not come. Okay. If you are in trouble, is it me you will call? You don't even know me until today.
Uh-huh.
Are you going to call me at 12 midnight or call Mr. Meribe and we start running from my house to your place? We are still going to call the same security people. So why don't you familiarize yourself with the security people around? And why they may not be able to do generally what we expect them to do. In my career, I've seen very, very hardworking and patriotic security people. And part of it include building relationship with them. So, for instance, if you do not have the phone number of the nearest security person or DPO or security post around your house, and if they do not know you, that's a problem. But if you can call them and they already know your name, then that is easy because they already know you and they know where to reach you. Mentally, they can start to calculate what's the best way to solve your problems. But if that is the time when you are in trouble that you are beginning to do an introduction, imagine that you call a DPO, and that is the time when you are introducing yourself and saying, I live in XYZ. When is the time when you should be saying Mayday, Mayday, Mayday? You don't have the
Uh-huh.
time to start to do an introduction at that time. You only need to say what your problem is because don't forget, you might only be whispering because they are already at your door or in your parlor, or you might only need to send them a text message. So, yes, by all means, make friends with security people. Yes, by all means, know the emergency numbers in the environment where you live. By all means, be prepared.
Oh, thank you very much. Now we have seen a lot more people on the counter watching this event, but we do not have as many comments and questions as possible. We still expect your comments and questions, and please know that we value them a lot. We do value your questions. Okay, we have this one from Emmanuel E.B. Odum, and he says, Hi, Ruben, on avoiding routines, what advice will you give on one's safety when such routines is not avoidable? Okay, I think that's interesting.
So yes, you can find yourself in a situation where for instance, certain routes that you have to go through, um, you don't have alternates to those routes. So we say, for instance, the road junction that leads to your house, that is the only place that you can go to your house or come out from. We call those choke points where you don't have an option than to pass through those. Once you realize that you have to go through that choke point, the thing to do is to raise your level of security consciousness as you pass through it. raise your level of awareness. Now it becomes a choke point. It also becomes your Achilles heel. As it is a place you must pass, the criminal is also mindful of that, especially if they have had you under surveillance. So the thing to do is to raise your antenna higher. Again, remember what we talked about, setting the right baseline and looking out for the absence of the normal or the presence of the abnormal. So you live in a close, and then as you are going towards your house, you find a a car that does not belong to any of your neighbors, that is strange in the environment. What do you do? Or you find somebody has been trailing you for a while, that you didn't have an agreement as you are coming from home, and you, when you turn right, the person turn right, you turn left, the person turn left. What you do is raise your level of consciousness and start to plan what you need to do to respond to it. So for instance, if you find in that choke point something that makes you unease as you pass it, the smart thing to do, for instance, would be to drive and continue rather than going to your house or something. So once you identify that there are certain things that becomes unavoidable, that becomes your vulnerability and your Achilles heel. You need to start to build contingencies. You need to start to build a plan around it. As we talk about plan for security, think about layered plan for security. Think about a layered approach. Like an onions, there have to be several layers to be able to get to you, so that it will literally take the criminal to break down through, to go through those several layers to catch you in the middle. But then as he's breaking these layers, you are putting additional layers and you are fortifying yourself and pushing him out. That's the thing to do. Once you know these routines are available, start to build some level of resilience and protection around yourself in those places that make you vulnerable.
Thank you. That is very helpful. And I have some kind of goodwill message from Alex. He says, Mr. Reuben is a seasoned security professional and has been in the business for pretty long and starting from a young age. And I agree with that completely, because this is the reason why he's making the debut of our experts that we are bringing here. We couldn't have brought anybody better, because he knows. And if you have been listening, I'm sure that you can feel exactly the same thing Alex that said, which is why Ruben is the first person we are playing in this very important program of bringing continuous awareness to people. And the likes also says, I'm always impacted positively every time I have listened to him. Say with me. Say with me. I appreciate that. As my chapter chairman in ASIS, I always love to be in his presence at meetings, and I'm praying for the COVID to get away so that we can continue our meetings and keep having the communion we have there that helps our lives to be better. Um, we appreciate all those who are watching. We still, compared to the number of people and the number of love likes we have already in the counter, we do not have the same number of comments. And we appreciate these comments. Please keep them coming. Keep the questions coming. Now, this will be my final question for you. And I'll start it with a story, and you need to help us here. Now, I have a lot of personal security consciousness myself. And 2 days ago, I was beaten to it. And the way I was beaten was that there's this group on Facebook where we are actually doing some very serious national issues. We are considering very serious national issues bordering on the constitutional review in the National Assembly. And because of how busy I have been, in about 4 days or thereabout, I have not even opened any of the messages they have sent to me. Now, this criminal calls me 2 days ago and says, Mr. Meribe, my name is Barnabas. The organization, the group said I should send this link to you because they're online now with a meeting. You've not been following events, which means, in other ways, he's probably inside that organization also. You've not been following events. And the first instinct was to query. The next one was guilt that I have not been in the event. And I clicked that link, and I was watching my WhatsApp on my computer, and instantly my computer cleared, and I say, okay, this is not a link to a meeting. This is a scam, and this guy had taken my identity. And he has gone out, quickly changed the phone number, took over all the groups I belong to, removed all the admins on all the groups I formed, and took over all of them, and is posting all kinds of nonsense everywhere. Now, personally, I'm not even feeling that that's all he wants to do. I feel maybe this is just the beginning of a plan, another plan. But whatever it is, uh, this tells me that what you have taught here today, eternal vigilance, is the only way to go in this matter. Do you have additional counsel for people relating to the cyber crimes and the attacks that can come? Maybe using my situation as a baseline.
Okay, it's interesting, and thank you for sharing with us your thoughts. It goes to show, and I know you, highly respected security professional. Um, some of us look up to you too, because of your experience and all that. But it goes to show that is a process. Like we talked about, bad guys always exist everywhere. Everywhere. We also say that good guys do stupid things.
Things, things.
And we also talked about the time and opportunity that puts both the good guy and the bad guy in one place. And usually, if you're not careful, the good guy wins. Here's something that a friend of mine put on his WhatsApp status today. Let me read it out for us. It says, a survey
Yes,
carried out by Consumer Reports review that so many social media network users take risks that can lead to burglary, identity theft, and stalking. 15% have posted their current locations or travel plan. 35% their full date of birth, and 21% of those with children at home have had their children's name and photograph. And he concluded by saying you may be inviting trouble. So here's the thing with technology and the challenge that we have is that bad guys also realize that too, and they are using it. From identity theft to business email compromise to phishing to there's so much on the cyberspace right now that is going on to even virtual kidnapping or even what is called ransomware now, where they can actually take over the whole of your network and your information for a company, for instance, and you have to pay ransom for that information before they will release it to you. But here is something to note with social media and the scam is their sense of urgency. I'm going to repeat that
yes,
again. The
yes.
sense
Please,
of urgency.
please.
Because they have a few minutes to scam you. If you have a lot of time, you will start thinking and processing. And what you find is that they are going to hit you from a knowledge point, from calling your full name and giving information about you that allows you to drop your guard.
Yeah.
Let me see, we repeat that again. They are going
Yes,
to
please.
come from some knowledge they have about you that allows you to relax and drop your guard because you think that this is somebody who knows you well. And secondly, they are going to capitalize, and you will see the sense of urgency that they have because they have a limited window before you discover them. And that's what happened to you, sir. So,
Exactly.
so here is something that I need to ask you to do. You do an assessment of your social media presence. Google
Exactly.
your own name on type your name on Google, and you'll be amazed where your name exists on Google. And
You're
then you
right.
think that you are that smart, people don't know you, and you are in different groups with different people that you do not know.
Exactly.
So those are the exposures, and they only need one person to get into that group and to mess things up. So here's something that you need to figure out. Start to look at your social media presence and think about the ones that are unnecessary and think about where you need to plug the holes. And then, as far as your presence on social media is concerned, there are things that they call two-factor authentication right now. That if you need to hack my email, my Yahoo, my Gmail, my WhatsApp, for instance, you will need, in addition to any other thing, you will need another password that goes there. But we have discovered that that doesn't work if you voluntarily click on a link by
Ex-
yourself,
Exactly.
which is what
Exactly.
they're doing now. As soon as you click on that link, you open the floodgate yourself. So here
Yes.
is it. If somebody calls you and calls you by your name, generally, Mr. Beribe, you are not a young man. Not everybody can call you by your name like that.
Exactly.
Only very people who are intimate and know you. So the thing to look at is go back. In fact, your first antenna to go up will be to what number is calling me. So sometimes if it's a strange number, I don't answer the number unless Truecaller tells me what it is. It's not urgent, no problem. I'm the one who determines what is urgent, not the other person. So I can decide not to answer that call until I authenticate who it is. Or even when I take the phone call, there are people who call me and call me by my name, and I'm thinking, are you the one who give me the name? That you are
Mhm.
calling me directly like that without any punctuation mark. So I'm taking a pause to understand who it is, and if I don't know who you are, you're going to see me being passive in that conversation. So you need to take a pause. And usually your instinct will tell you, but in your own case, because of the guilt that you have been away from that platform for a while,
Exactly.
you ignore
Exactly.
your instinct very quickly and you decided to work in favor of resolving your guilt. And your
Exactly.
guilt made you even more guilty because you didn't even get to the group and you ended up exposing other people in all the groups that you belong to.
I tell you, that
But
is
here
a
is
fact.
the thing with the sense of urgency. Be very careful. Not everything that is urgent is important. Also, not everything that is important is urgent. So there's a training that I did not too long ago, and there was something about the tyranny of the urgent. Be very
Okay.
careful about things you are saying urgent. Do it now, 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 now. Calm down. Like that young boy, we should be coming down more these days. Take your time so that you can evaluate what is going on and respond appropriately. But that is what you find with social media, that sense of urgency and some familiarity with you. But that familiarity with you comes from information that already exists within the World Wide Web. So here's the thing that I tell people: be very careful what is put on social media because number one, everybody can have access to it. That is why it is worldwide, and that is why it's the web. Think about what the spider web does, literally. Think about the fact that it's worldwide. That is the kind of access that you have. Secondly, with social media, trust me, there's no delete. You might delete it from your computer, but people who can have a way of retrieving it wherever they are. And number two, if you put something that is bad there or something that hurts your reputation, it's going to be very difficult for you to clean. You can put rejoinder, but whatever you have there already exists.
Thank you. This is awesome, and as you speak on this, I kind of I'm relearning something that maybe I should have known before, but it is great to be with you today on this matter, and I hope other people heard. I actually shared this for the benefit of our viewers, for the benefit of those out there. As a security professional myself, I believe that the best thing is to keep everybody around you as safe as possible. That way, you could also be secure. So, thank you very much for this wonderful and very wise counsel you have given on this subject and others. Now, do you have any final words as we conclude this broadcast this morning, Ruben?
So I'm going to say three things as my final word.
Yeah.
Number one, there's no security in the mix of unnecessary danger. If you expose yourself unnecessarily, you cannot expect any better. That's number one. Number two, security is not expensive, it is invaluable. And number three, as my wrapping point, nobody can secure yourself better than you can. Take personal responsibility for your security.
Thank you very much. And it's as if you were there when the company, Secure Travel and Resident Services, together decided to start this program. But the truth is that you were not there. We said it has to be personal security. People need to deal with these issues themselves. Um, Mr. Reuben Odum, it is just a pleasure to be with you every time, whether it is
Pleasure
in
is mine,
our
sir.
ASIS meeting or in this broadcast or in the other times that we have visited. I'm so very happy that you are on this program today. You have given a lot to the world, and thank you very much for it.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Okay, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Mm. Thank you, everyone. This is a big one, and I hope that it will touch lives, save lives, and save your reputation. This is what Secure Travel and Resident Services is up, and the online television of the African Town Hall TV is set out to use all the opportunities to expose this kind of things so that people can learn and grow and be better. Thank you and have a great time. In a short while, we will begin a watch party on this program. If you did not follow us from beginning, you can join that watch party to learn more. You have a great day.